Morning folks, hope you're doing well. This morning I'm in the empty quarter desert in Oman. Now this is apparently the largest desert in the world. It spans across Oman, Yemen, parts of Yemen, Saudi Arabia and the UAE. I had no idea that this was the largest desert in the world. It's a lie! But our good friend Khaled told me that, and so I'm inclined to believe him. It also sounds pretty cool as well. Anyway, on the last video that I posted, which was the Lightroom kind of editing tips video, or showing you my process and how I put those photos together, I had a couple people asking me how I capture and edit aerial images. Now, I'm not going to have time to cover both of those in one video. I think each of them deserve probably multiple videos, explaining my process and showing you the nuances of each. But anyway, I thought I'd take our final morning here in the empty quarter desert to show you how I would go about capturing landscape photos with my drone. And to be honest, I couldn't think of a better place to do this. We don't really have a genuine subject that we can capture here. And so, as you can probably tell when I turn the camera around, this is a pretty phenomenal landscape. And so the drone photos should be pretty sick. Anyway, our guide Ali is somewhere back there, cooking up some tea, hopefully English breakfast tea, and so I'm going to get stuck in with that, and then I guess we'll jump right into the video. Okay, 2 settings I want to cover before we send the drone up. Number 1, please don't shoot in JPEG. You could be shooting in JPEG because, number 1, you bought a new drone and its default is JPEG. Or, number 2, it could be that you did a factory reset or one of those firmware update things, and that's also, I think, going to reset your drone to shoot in JPEG. Don't do that. I've done it plenty of times. I've also done it in client jobs. It's very sad. And we all know for a fact that drone shots in JPEG are shit and nobody wants them. My second point on settings is to shoot between f4 and f5.6. Don't think just because you're going all the way up to f11 or f8, 9, 11, whatever the values are, that you're going to have more sharpness throughout the frame. I don't think that's the case. When I used to shoot on my Mavic 2 Pro, I'd always shoot between f4 and f5.6, and I think it's fine on the Mavic 3 as well, and it's probably going to be fine if you have a different drone. You're just going to have to take my word for it. But yeah, that's it for settings. Now let's get up in the air, and I guess the only thing left to talk about there is composition. Actually, 1 minute. Another thing for settings, try not to go too high on the ISO. I mean, it's fine to go to 200. God forbid you have to go up to 400 on anything but a Mavic 3 series drone. But yeah, try to keep it lower, 200 at max. And if you're going to go above 200, then you're going to need to use denoise software, like Topaz Denoise, or one of those other AI things. I don't know what they're called, but yeah, let's get the drone up.
Alright guys, so this was the first dune that really caught my eye on that morning in the empty quarter. And what I love about this shot is, not only do we have this strong kind of centrally aligned anchor point in our shot, that being the sand dune near the center bottom of the frame, but I also love how the dune kind of leads from that bottom left-hand corner up into the center of the frame. I think that just works perfectly. And the way the light is hitting that dune, it seems to be a little bit stronger than the light we're getting on the dunes in the background. So we've got slightly more contrast in that foreground, leading out to slightly less contrasty, but I mean equally beautiful scenes in the background with those individual mountains of sand, you could say. Then I actually took this second shot of that same dune that was in the bottom of the previous frame, but I wanted to isolate that dune because I think it had a really interesting shape. Now, as you might be able to tell from the light, it's pretty obvious that I shot this at a different time of day. That's correct. I shot this at sunset the previous day, but I just love the way the light was kind of catching that left-hand side of the dune, a little bit of the right-hand side, and then it is totally isolated by the shadows and negative space around it. I just feel like that worked really well, and yeah, I think with that, let's move on to the second series of shots where I actually focused on the 2 cars that we took out into the desert, and I think I got a couple of really nice shots there. All right, so as you can see from this shot here we've got the two cars, hopefully you can see them, we've got the two cars parked on the kind of bottom left-hand corner, and then we've got this just incredible dune kind of leading up from there, curving into the center of the frame, and making its way over to the right-hand side of the frame, which kind of leads into more of those isolated mountains of sand in the background. I guess similar kind of concept to the first, but I wanted to try and incorporate a subject into these shots, which is why I used the cars, and I think they really show an incredible sense of scale here. So that was the first one I captured of the cars. Then we got this second shot, which is, very similar. I guess kind of similar in a way. It doesn't show the great expanse of the desert, but more focuses on this one dune in the middle. And I mean, it just had an incredible shape. When I'm looking at it, it almost looks like a kind of squid. I mean, I might just be tired from the trip, but this almost squid-looking sand dune in the middle, all the curves that kind of lead into the car at the bottom left, I think, damn, it's just so cool. The one thing that bugs me about this, I mean, OCD brain going crazy, is just that light patch in the bottom right corner. I'd way prefer this was completely dark, and I guess I could use generative fill AI for this to kind of fill that in, but I'm not going to do that. And then I got this third shot of the cars, just a very simple top down, but I just like the way that the light was catching the dunes, creating these abstract patterns from above, and then the pretty obvious two subjects, that being the car at the top of the frame. And now we've kind of spoken about those shots and the way I've captured the cars using the subject to kind of show the scale of the space. I'm going to head over to a couple of abstract shots that I captured, and I think you're going to like these. All right, so here's the first. I caught this actually, I was on my way to shoot something else, and I mean, I just loved the way the shadow from the dune was casting this shape over the desert. It gave me the opportunity to create these, what I think are pretty interesting 50-50 shots. We've got these not huge sand dunes, but kind of just wave-like structures of sand passing through the desert. I don't know, I just thought that 50-50 split was interesting, highlighting the details in one part of the shot, that being the top right-hand side, let's say. And then with the bottom left half, kind of taking the contrast out of that area, and I don't know. Just works, I guess. and then, then we got this third shot. And don't have a subject here, but I must say I love the way we have, what I quite enjoyed was the intense kind of light contrast shapes on that right-hand side, kind of fizzling out to the left into those 3 or 4 kind of strands of light breaking over to the left and top left-hand side. Something about the business of the right contrasting with the simplicity of the left, I guess, as I've said a million times, just worked well. And now we've covered those abstract photos, we're going to have a little look at a final few photos I captured of the wider landscapes of the desert. And starting off with this one, I mean, as you can imagine, the desert is bloody huge, and so it actually took quite a long time for my drone to to get to any one spot that I thought might work well. But I mean, I could have chosen, I suppose, any one of these mountains to be in the foreground, and perhaps there was a better one somewhere out there. But given it was a little bit closer to me and I had a few other things I wanted to shoot, I think this one worked really well. We've got this dune in the kind of center bottom of the frame acting as the anchor point, and which is then leading into the background with those, again, isolated structures. I think, one thing people struggle with sometimes with aerial photography, at least what I've noticed, perhaps on my courses or on my workshops, is when they're trying to capture a larger landscape, I don't know, they struggle to kind of tie it all in together, and they kind of, I don't know, I feel like you need some kind of anchor point in an image, otherwise you just get lost amongst the noise. And so I guess what I was trying to do is just use this, this dune in the foreground to anchor this photo. But yeah, I mean, I think it works well. Second image, let's see. Oh, I know exactly what I was trying to do here. Okay, love the way the shadows are being cast off pretty long. And actually what I've tried to do here is use that dune in the foreground as, I suppose, my anchor point to then lead you through the frame from right to left. You can see the second dune with the huge shadow, the third dune with the huge shadow, and so on and so forth. Anyway, I just think that really, it kind of has a really nice leading line through this frame, and I thought that worked pretty well. And the very last shot, I guess it works similar to the first shot that I mentioned. I just got a little bit closer to the dune. Again, just using an interesting kind of detailed foreground of that in the dune, and then leading into those isolated dunes in the background. Yeah, I mean, I think this worked pretty well. I was pretty happy with these photos that I caught there. And I know this has been a slightly different format, you know, for me reviewing my images, but I hope you enjoyed it. And with that said, I guess it's time to outro this video.
All right, guys, we're just making our way out of the desert. Tons of flies on my face, which has been very much the case for the past 24 hours or so. But yeah, so... Oh, swallowed one. Great. But oh, Jesus Christ. Where was I? Yes. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bit more of a casual take on my experience as a landscape photographer with a drone. I'm sure I've got plenty other drone videos coming up in the future. And if you had any thoughts, or there's anything else you'd like to see drone-wise in the future, then please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear you. I'd love to hear from you. I can't concentrate because I've got these flies on me. I'm going to wish you farewell, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.